It's like in my video had cut short in the middle of it. Let me start back where I was at.
Step to the next technological feat. So let's understand, Elon Musk's goal is to build by 2050 a city on Mars that will have a population of...
And look, the Most High finna snatch these devils out of power way before 2050. You can see it happening now. When you look at the news, they said, though they said they nest among the stars, I will bring thee down. So they nest been up there. You know they climbing to heaven. Let me get that real quick. This has been prophesied, man. That's coming to pass very soon. 2050 shit going on for these Edomites. They got a rude awakening coming. They said, though they dig into hell, which you got a lot of these elites and bankers and presidents, senators, and governors, they hiding out in bunkers and shit right now while all this stuff go down. It says, though they dig into hell, then shall my hand take them. Though they climb into heaven, thence will I bring them down. So them going under the heaven, man, or the Shemayim, they ain't finna thrive up there like they think they're doing. They got it all mapped out and shit too.
Musk's goal is to build by...
And they infrastructure on the earth failing. They ain't finna go in there and build this shit.
2050, a city on Mars that will have a population of 1 million people.
Pretty amazing, considering that not long ago, about the only things flying were hot air balloons and gliders made of wood. But that changed in 1903 with the Wright brothers. Orville and Wilbur flew the first motorized plane. And after that, well, things took off. The F-13 was the first all-metal commercial plane. It carried 4 passengers. The 40s saw the rise of the Constellation and the fall of speed records. Then came the Comet, the world's first commercial jet airliner. It crashed a few times because of stress fractures around its square windows. It's why windows on planes today are oval. The 70s brought the supersonic Concorde. In the early 2000s, the Airbus A380 and 787 Dreamliner made it cheaper for airlines to fly people around. And today there's Elon Musk and his plans for the Starship to fly us to other planets or even between cities at insane speeds.
The critical breakthrough that's needed for us to become a spacefaring civilization is to make space travel like air travel.
We'll talk about intercity commutes on rockets a little later. But let's talk about this SpaceX launch first.
Lift off.
Up until now, only governments in the US, Russia, and China have been able to fly people into space. So this is the first commercial company to take people into low Earth orbit. And this is a test mission called Demo 2. It's also, as NASA likes to remind us, the first launch of American astronauts
on American rockets from American soil
in almost a decade. Astronauts Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley rode up in a capsule called the Crew Dragon. It's like a big SUV that seats up to 7, but it's less tin can Apollo 11, more sleek modern kitchen with touchscreens. Bad weather delayed the launch by a few days.
Unfortunately, we are not going to launch today.
Then there was liftoff.
Liftoff! Go NASA, go SpaceX, Godspeed, Bob and Doug!
From the Kennedy Space Center in Florida to the International Space Station, or the ISS, where Behnken and Hurley will stay up to 4 months.
We're given the honor to name this capsule. Without further ado, we would like to welcome you aboard Capsule Endeavour.
It's historic, and sure, it's something to celebrate. But what's in it for SpaceX and NASA? Well, privatized spaceflight means the U.S. doesn't have to spend as many tax dollars to transport cargo and people to the ISS. Since NASA retired the space shuttle in 2011,
we sure hope that everybody was able to take just a little part of the journey with us.
It's had to rely on Russian Soyuz rockets to get to the space station.
Yes, confirmed.
Contract is confirmed.
It costs roughly $85 million a seat to send a NASA astronaut up on the Soyuz.
Which means a lot of people not gonna be able to go up there, man. This for the elites. This their little escape route. This what they want to try to do. Get the fuck out of here. They ain't finna take no average person, no average civilian up there. People that's making minimum wage or whatever. That ain't for them. But hey, but little do they know, this ain't for them either. Now, I'm gonna pull some more switches real quick. I'm gonna end this off. But yeah, hold on, before I get into that. Type this in.
planet isn't just awesome, it's important. It provides everything you want, love, and need. So, what if you could get it all?
Welcome to Bladed Tech Musings, the channel dedicated to retro tech, innovation.
Get to the main points. I don't want to see all this on
Transfer orders will begin in earnest soon. Given the current growing pains in incorporating current personnel into a new service brand.
And look, you can't make this up, man. I'll show you our description, man. Look at the tag right there. You got the eagle. Basically, it's like it's sitting in the nest above the stars, man. You can't make this shit up. Let me read that description one more time, man. And it's clear as day who this talking about. It ain't talking about the Arabs, talking about no Chinese and no Japanese and none of that. It's clear as day who it's talking about. Back in the book of Obadiah, verse 4, it says, "Know thou exalt thyself as the eagle." As the eagle. And though thou set thy nest among the stars, Space Force. Got the eagle sitting up with the little stars above it. Thence will I bring thee down, says the Lord Yahweh. So they're going to build this shit up just so the Most High can show his power to let this play a little bit more.
It seems unlikely that there is an immediate need for new recruits. Nevertheless, the Air Force has seen a recruiting opportunity in advertising its new subordinate service branch. Let's take a look.
Some people look to the stars and ask, what if? Our job is to have an answer. We have to imagine what will be imagined. Plan for what's possible, while it's still impossible. Maybe you weren't put here just to ask the questions. Maybe you were put here to be the answer. Maybe your purpose on this planet isn't on this planet.
An excellent spot with high production values. This isn't the first time the Air Force has used its Space Command as a recruiting tool. It has run several commercials over the last 10 years, extolling the virtues of maintaining combat-ready space capabilities. Let's take a look at these for comparison.
Sir, debris heading toward our comm satellite. Impacts may cut off communications with ground forces.
Launch avoidance maneuver. Kilometers in closing.
Collision averted, sir. All objects are accounted for.
Good job.
Learn more at airforce.com.
My name is Colonel Benjamin Alvin Drew, Jr. I grew up in Washington, D.C. When I was growing up, if you look in any of my textbooks, any of my notebooks, you'll find the margins filled with doodles of airplanes, jets, rockets. If it left the surface of the Earth and went somewhere else on an adventure, it was probably going to fill my imagination. If you weren't going to go to college, then you would go into the service. And for me, I didn't necessarily want to choose between the two, so I tried to do both. My experience in the Air Force is that your competency and your character count, and almost nothing else does beyond that. If you are willing to work hard enough to go do the things necessary to get where you want to go, you can get there. I was flying helicopters in special operations, applied to become a test pilot. I got into the test pilot program. Every 2 years, usually NASA has a levy for astronauts, and every 2 years, test pilots and test engineers apply to become astronauts. So in about the year 2000, I applied to become an astronaut and got accepted. Looking back 11 years later, no, I had no clue as to the magnitude of how much life would change. I don't know if there's anything that can prepare you for leaving the Earth the way you do in a space shuttle. About 10 seconds out, the shuttle main engines ignite. The best way to describe it is like 10 million subwoofers stampeding up that shuttle stack, and they ultimately engulf you. You get shoved back into your seat, and you are leaving the pad. You don't know if you're going into space, but you know you are not sitting at that launch pad anymore. At about 8.5 minutes, we were about 100 miles up, going about 17,500 miles an hour, and the engines cut off. So I went from being pressed into my seat at 3 Gs to being up, going about 17.
Flat, y'all. No, let me stop fucking around, man. I've been hearing people say that shit lately too. To my damn flat earth. Ain't no flat earth.
1,500 miles an hour, and the engines cut off. So I went from being pressed into my seat at 3 Gs to being weightless. Being one of those kids who wanted to become an astronaut and actually growing up to be an astronaut is a surreal experience. When opportunity knocks at your door, it's sometimes a scary thing. It'd be easier thing to do would be to simply go off and do something that seems more realistic. Don't be realistic. Don't be reasonable. Be bold, be courageous in following that dream. Everyone takes a certain amount of courage to step across that threshold and into that new adventure.
They promoting this shit heavy. This all about to fulfill prophecy, man. That's all this leading up to. It ain't no coincidence that we in these times right now, and a lot of stuff you see in the news, the media is talking about the Space Force, SpaceX. Well, I'm just in this video. If I don't want to make this too much longer, just want to bring that up. Now, the Book of Revelation, chapter 12, verse 7, which I was gonna get the Book of Ezra, second Ezra, but I ain't gonna get that right now. The other Akim, I'm sure you don't heard of it. When they talk about the Lord flying upon, like he flew upon a mountain, and its ending was not perceived, basically, because it was talking about how big it was. Actually, a ship, it wasn't an actual mountain he was flying on. But anyway, the Book of Revelation, chapter 12, verse 7, it says, "And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels," which they call some of these jets. I want to say it's Blue Angels or something like that, if I'm mistaken. Now it says, "And prevailed not, neither was their place found any more in heaven." So, hey, whoever joined this damn Space Force, man, they ain't gonna fucking make it. That shit ain't gonna work. The Esau got schemed up. Because they know that Yahawashi coming back with the angels. They see the angels. They got documented footage of the ships. They actually got documented footage of how the angels look, and that they actually dark-skinned men. Angelic men, so to speak. So, Lord's on this edifying call, Yahawashi and Shalom to the left.